We believe that the heart of a man is a treasure trove of untold stories, powerful lessons, and profound wisdom. Through authentic dialogues and insightful discussions, we aim to unlock these treasures, one story at a time. So, whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. Get ready to be challenged, inspired, and transformed. And now, to guide you through this journey of discovery, please welcome your host, a visionary leader and a true catalyst for change, Dwayne Dwyer, but we affectionately know him as the Mindset Coach.
Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to tonight's conversation here this Friday on the Hearts of Men podcast. And I am here tonight with my brothers, our esteemed panelists this evening. At our top left, y'all know the Mindset Coach, Dwayne Dwyer. Next to him, what we call the Unk with the Funk. I tell you, every time I say it, I feel like you need theme music with it, you know. Uncle Junior, also known as the Consistency Coach.
I do need theme music.
I'm telling you, we got to make that happen. And next to me, my
Me.
homie, my homie, poor man is Dr. Phil, also known as Shift Happens, and I am your host for tonight, the son of Timothy, also known as the Available Man. Gentlemen, how are you doing this 4th of July, this Independence Day?
I'm doing well, gentlemen. Had a good day and last couple of days. Been having a bunch of young testosterone men hanging around between my nephews and sons and stuff like that. So it's been cool.
Yeah, I'm doing well, doing the whole grandpappy thing. So yeah, might see a little of this up here. So
I am good on this Friday. Yes, I'm awesome on this Friday. Good to see you guys. As always, great to share in conversation with you guys. And as always, because it's always an honor to be able to talk with the, sharing conversation with the livest panel on social media. So all is well. I'm always appreciate being here.
Absolutely. Y'all know every Friday, whether it's an up or down day, I'm excited to get on Fridays and talk with my brothers, my boys, and have good stimulating conversations that empowers us and our community. Never get it twisted. We are always empowering ourselves as well, as we have these conversations. So, quick disclaimer: as we have this conversation, first thing first, everyone up here on this panel, we are experts of our own opinions, of our own perspectives, and we respect yours as well. So please do us a favor. If you are here, please get in the chat, share your perspectives, answer the questions, join into the conversation. We see everyone's conversation, no matter what platform you are on, and you are always an impact to the conversation. So with that said, let's go ahead and get ourselves started.
My bad.
Are you constantly feeling drained, resentful, or like your personal space is being invaded? Or you feel stuck in your relationships as if it's hard for you to find your comfort or find your groove, and you never know how to operate in those in your relationships in life? Well, it's time to talk about setting boundaries. And in this essential conversation, we dive deep into how to set healthy boundaries in all areas of your life, from personal relationships and family dynamics to professional settings. Learn practical step-by-step strategies to protect your energy, boost your self-worth, and foster genuine, respectful connections. So we plan to dive into that today. So we ask that you join in this conversation, and let's empower ourselves, each other, and let's go ahead and share this conversation so we can go ahead and make change. All right. With that said, gentlemen, let's go ahead and get ready to jump into the first question of this conversation. My first question, brothers, is how do we identify boundaries that we may need to set in our lives?
After we done screwed up or messed up or I'm just saying, for me, a lot of times that's when I found out that I needed boundaries set. When something happened and I was like, darn it, man, I bet if I would have had a boundary set, this probably wouldn't have happened. So um that's what I'm gonna start with. Like, bro, like I've been through some stuff and I was like, darn it, man. If I had only told her this is how things are. If I had only told my boss, this is what I'm going to accept, and this is what I'm not going to accept. So for me, how do we identify boundaries that we need to set in life? A lot of times, for a lot of us, vastly, like you said, disclaimer, we're subject matter experts of our own perspective and opinion. So for me, I learned a lot of different ways how to identify my boundaries after the fact.
And I think for me, identifying boundaries is when my energy or my mood shifts because of what somebody else is doing. It means that I need to set some boundaries because I'm not necessarily liking the space or the change of direction that my energy goes. So that'll tell me right off the rip, like, hey, I got to shift some things because when they come around or when they start talking or they're always negative, when my focus shifts from where I should be focused onto what they're doing, I need to set some boundaries because it has to be about where I'm going, not about their issues and their problems.
So I'm gonna go back a little further than that. I think when I understand what boundaries are and the need to set them, I'll start there. And once I understand what boundaries are, the need to set them, what they actually do when it comes down to the space of relationship, and then after that, then these things kick in because these things that both of these brothers said, it kind of helped me to understand where I have not established boundaries. It also helped me to understand where some of the boundaries that I set, they were set based upon a false pretense. So some things need to be addressed. And, maybe a part of the thing that needs to be addressed is the fact that I need to enforce the boundary that I set. So I think all of those things exist, but I don't want to go too far out of fear of tapping into some of the talking points that you want to get into.
I like all of that because that's kind of where my mind was as well. Because what you brought up, Coach, I think is a problem that a lot of us have is we don't really know what boundaries are, and so to begin to set boundaries, it's hard to really do in the beginning because we don't know. We've never experienced that, especially the way some of us grew up. We ain't had. I don't, and I can speak for my generation, and I'm pretty sure I can speak for your generation as well. We didn't have privacy in our mama house. And if you thought you had privacy, you lost your door. Stop playing with her. So that whole concept of having boundaries, and then you become an adult and you building these lasting relationships and friendships, and you like, I ain't never really been able to say I don't like that. I ain't really been able to say I don't want people to move like that in my life. And so then we get in relationships and we're like, why all my relationships suck? Why they always go south? Why am I the problem or are they the problem? Like but the problem is I don't really know what a boundary is and they haven't been set. And in return, I don't know how to respect others because I'm like, what is this? It's really a new space. It's something I don't think I heard no one truly talk about boundaries. I might have heard the word as a young adult, but I never heard no one actually talk about boundaries probably until like my late 20s, early 30s. So I think I
Oh,
agree with you. It starts there, but a lot of us did learn, like these two brothers said, we bumped our heads against the wall a couple of times and realized it hurt. And so we had to put some pads around the room so we stopped hitting our head. And so that's kind of like my baseline there. So I have a part
Hold on real
A.
quick.
Mhm.
Can I
Yes, sir.
jump in and add a little bit more to it? So when I was speaking from past consistency coach. Now I want to bring me back more to current right? So how does identify boundaries that I may need to set from that guy over there, that guy down here, and that guy over there, right? When I see something, I think sometimes I think sometimes it's not comparison, but we may see something that may be beneficial, that may work in someone else's life. Not saying that we automatically have to take on to it, but if I see that, you know what, we're on here on the show and we're talking about something, and coach said, hey, you know what, the way I live my life, I set a boundary in this area of my life. And I'm like, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna start applying that boundary into my life too, because I have heard coach talk about setting this boundary in his life, or Gaddy or Roland or whoever. And they have talked about how beneficial this have been to their well-being, to their overall life, to whatever, but it has benefit, or it has some added value in their life, and that's why they have created that boundary. So part of me now, and some of the ways that I identify boundaries is by listening to you brothers, listening to other people, and hearing and seeing how their boundaries of certain things that they have in their life has worked for them. And then I may put that into thought process, and then maybe even apply that into my life now. So that's current Unc.
I think there's some comments in the question. Not comments in the question. There's some comments in the chat that we might want to bring up, because I think that kind of shares some more perspective, if you will, on boundaries.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I was actually trying to type fast enough, but Unc shut up fast, and I thought he was. uh, I wanted to bring up Lisa's comment because it kind of plays into what we were just saying.
Which one? This
Which-
one?
No, the one where she said, "I used to think boundaries was a bad
Ah,
word." Yeah, she said, "I used to think boundaries was a bad word, and that person was pushing me away. Now I know better. It is one of the most important aspect to discuss, and that is exactly where I was as a young adult. If you remember, I said I didn't know how to respect nobody else's boundaries. I thought you was just one. I thought if we knew the word narcissist back when I was 20, I probably would have applied that to people with boundaries. Oh, you think it's all about you? You think everybody only care about you? Like that's how y'all know about trigger words.
I'll stick at that term. I'm
Right,
sorry.
because everybody's a narcissist now.
Yeah, exactly.
But I promise you, I would have been one of those ones at 20 applying it to people just because they have boundaries. And so I don't know about y'all, but did y'all know what boundaries were when you were young?
I knew what boundaries were, but I didn't know them by that term. It was just like, don't let nobody walk all over you. Don't let nobody talk to you a certain way. You know what I mean? It was things like that, which were boundaries, but we didn't use that term boundary.
Yeah, but what does that mean? Don't let nobody walk all over you. Like, and I'm agreeing with what you're saying because I
Yeah.
heard that as well. But when you really stop and like peel it back and think about it, like, what does that really mean? You know what I'm saying? Don't let nobody walk all over you. And I've seen other comments that address like how I feel or things of that nature. But what if how I feel is rooted in a lie? You know what I'm saying? What if the foundation of how I feel is rooted in something that was taught to me that was incorrect? So now what I'm doing is I am correcting people based upon a lie, and I am projecting that on them because at the end of the day, I don't necessarily want to accept, and I'm just going to use this as a term. I don't want to accept responsibility when they are now trying to tell me what they observe in me. So when we say those things, and again, I'm agreeing with you because I heard that term as well. Don't let everybody walk all over you. But what does that really mean? Does that mean that I get to impose my will on them and they have to accept it? Beg to differ.
I was checking to see if Ro had anything.
Oh, you see, I had to move because the kids was running around. So yeah, but I'm loving. I like where Coach just went because I think that sometimes people will learn that the boundaries that they set were other people's perception of reality, and so it's like when don't allow this to happen. You use an experience that you had to not do something. So now, in turn, you're doing it to other people because of a boundary that you set. And that's how, like Moria and all them shows used to have I get bullied when I was younger. So now I worked out and now I set boundaries and now I treat people like crap, like people treated me. It's like, come on, man, be for real. So yeah, you can sometimes you can take a phrase or a word and manipulate it to fashion how your mind is thinking, not how reality is.
I like that. I like you made me have a different perspective just now. Just in a few seconds, my head went somewhere when it came to bullies. Because as an adult, I really just bully was just someone who picked on people. But I realized a true bully is a person who tramples over your boundaries, regardless of how you express them. Because as an adult, that looks different. Or you just got those people that's like, I hear what you said, but I'm gonna do what I want to do. And if you don't like me, then that as an adult, to me, that's what a bully is, because you feel like there's no repercussions for you to do whatever and treat people however. But I digress on that. I want to go. I got a part A to this question. So what part do your values, because we talked about emotions. I saw some comments mention our emotions and feelings as well, but what part do your values play in identifying your boundaries?
Roland, if you're talking, you're muted, bro.
Oh, okay.
I'll go. I think our values is just one of the things that it takes to be able to play a part in identifying boundaries. But I think our values play a lot of, we look at a bunch of different values that, anyone may have. You can start naming them. I think that if you are a certain way, give me a value, any value. Somebody give me a value, any value.
Respect. I'm big on respect.
All right, respect. Let's talk about the value respect, right? So if your mind, if you believe that it's okay to disrespect and yell and cuss at someone else, then it may be harder for you to identify when someone says, hey, look, I don't want you cussing at me. That's not how I operate. It may be hard for that person to see that because in their line and the way that they operate, yelling and cussing at somebody is not necessarily a form of disrespect. It is just how I talk because this is where I'm from. And everybody in my family, this is just how we talk to each other. So I think that sometimes if you have values, if that is the value that we're talking about in this situation, respect, I think that it can be, like I said, I think sometimes it can be hard to identify because you think a certain way about a certain value than other people may about the same value. I think that makes sense. It makes sense in my head.
And yeah, because I brought up respect because I'm big on respect. Where if we're having a conversation, I don't believe that both parties, if we're adults, we should be able to communicate, not yell, not cuss, not do all that stuff. Like, because once it started happening, my boundaries that I set for me means that rolling is no longer in the conversation. That's just me. If you want to talk, we can talk. But once you go there, I'm out because that's not a space that I want to be in because I know what it could lead to.
I'm if you don't mind, I'm gonna change the dynamics of this question just a little bit because I don't want to say your values. I want to say our values. Because if I'm in a relationship with a person that does not have the exact same values that I have, then I don't need to be in a relationship with that person. So when I am owning a particular set of values, and I don't know that those values are values that you actually take as a metric to your existence, now you're going to be in the space to where disrespect and all of those other things that you just heard kind of come into play. But if we have shared values now depict the boundaries of our life because at the end of the day, I don't have to worry about you disrespecting me because disrespect is something that you hold in high regard when it comes down to your life. So if we have shared values is where we now can create those boundaries. And because I myself don't want to be disrespected. Now, I in turn will never disrespect you. And because you have the exact same value, you kind of move at the same, you move to the same beat. So that's just kind of how I see it.
Man, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Let's highlight some of these chats real quick. Sister Nodella said my values play a significant role in that if I treat you with respect, I expect the same in return. Um, I do want to talk about that real quick because you brothers talked about respect, but I think here's why I like what Coach just said too, because it looks different when I'm setting it as a boundary, and this is kind of going to lead into the next part of the conversation. So I'm gonna let y'all get y'all's out the way, but I'm gonna pin this right because it's not just respect because me and Onk grew up in two different parts of the East Coast. He grew up in North Carolina. I grew up in New York. Respect looked differently, and though respect is a thing, but my thing is if you walk up on me, my girl, don't you greet my girl first, brothers, right? You greet me first. Like that's the thing that I was taught. Right, that's a sign of disrespect. You know, if I in even if I see a woman with a man and I know the woman, I don't know the man, I'm gonna greet him first because that's it's not just respect me, but we have it's the specific boundary within respect that that I'm focused on. So I just wanted to bring that out real quick.
I want to add to this too, and I was going to leave it alone because I didn't want to derail the conversation for this thought that I had. But when I'm looking at the conversation, the title, and it talks about confidence and control, then I think it fits, right? So I want to know, what do you guys think about this whole respect thing, right? As far as, in order to get respect, you have to, earn respect. I will treat you with respect. I expect the same in return. Here's how I operate, and here's how Unc lives his life. I'm going to respect you, brothers, regardless if you guys respect me or not, because this is who I am as a man.
Hmm.
I have dedicated my life to being respectful to people, regardless. Now, do I expect the same in return? Yes, but no. I do, but I don't. So I expect for people that's in my circle to treat me with the same amount of respect. However, I understand that there are certain times and situations, few and far between, where that line may be crossed because we're all human, and that's totally okay. But I do expect it, but at the same time, I don't expect it because the people who don't show me that respect, they they won't be an intricate part of my life at the end of the day anyway. So I'm not really expecting a disrespectful person to be respectful. However, comma, I am still going to be respectful to that person. Does not necessarily mean that I have to deal with them or spend amount of time with them. But those are kind of my thoughts about this. So what do you guys' thought about respect in general, and all of the things that we talk about when it comes to respect?
I'm right there with you. With I don't care who it is. I'm giving respect. I'm showing respect. Now, whether or not you do it, that'll determine our relationship moving past whatever it is right now. Because I think that it's the same way. Like when Coach says, "Hey, I'm going to see moms this weekend." I'm not blowing his phone up. He's having family time. I respect family time. Same way with either one of you guys, whether it's family time or whatever. And the same way I expect for when I ask you a question, I expect an honest answer. I don't expect for you to lie to me because that's part of our core values. And it's not like we just wear it around like, hey, we got these core values. Are you doing this? Are you doing that? It comes out within the relationship. It comes out with our communication. It comes out with our growth because I may be slipping over her and you can sit up there and say, okay, let me go ahead and hey, let's have a conversation. And then now I say, dang, I was, a little disrespectful, or I was, because it allows me to see me how I was. And that's part of being in a relationship. So when it comes to these values, they are core values because the core keeps us whole. Because without that, it's anarchy.
Yeah, I'm agree. Before I say anything, though, I want everybody, regardless of what platform you're on, go ahead and hit that like button. Hit the like button and make sure that you share it, because I think boundaries is a very important conversation that a lot of people struggle with. Um, I agree with the Unc's perspective. I think the notion is when it comes down to expectations, I placed expectations on me to behave according to what I really and truly do believe. So my belief system now drives my behavior. That's what I expect. I expect me to live up to what it is that I believe in. Therefore, like Unc said, I value respect. Therefore, when it comes down to how I treat you, how I handle you, I would do it in a respectful manner. I think Nadella said something else in conjunction with it. Respect. We have our own values that may not be the same. That's true. I agree. That might be the thing, but that also helps to define the relationship as well. Because when we don't have the same values, then it's like I can appreciate the values that you have. Maybe your perspective is that respect isn't so high on the totem pole for you. Maybe respect is all the way down here. Therefore, that gives you the opportunity to be disrespectful. Well, that I can tell you is a 100% guarantee that that will create space in this thing that we call relationship. Because if I am going to handle you in a respectful manner, I think it's okay for me to expect a full grown adult to reciprocate. Reciprocity is a thing in relationship. Reciprocity does not always look the same because the things that you are good at doing are not necessarily the things that I am good at doing. So respect for me may look one way as it's being extended to you, but then when you do it in return, it may look a different way. And I think that's the thing that we get to the point of respecting the minute differences in us all. I think in the grand scheme of things, respect is respect is respect, right? Um, can I have expectations for adults? Absolutely. But I don't have total expectations for adults. Like I expect if I am having a conversation that we're going to have dialogue back and forth. I don't expect you to shut down because when you shut down, you're not behaving adult like. That's an expectation I can have. Now that gives us something to talk about, not so much as what we were talking about, but now why is it that you elected to shut down when we're trying to have adult, mature, difficult conversation? So I think that's one of those things that we can look at. Do I have like complete expectation? Oh, I expect you to be home by 7 o'clock. No, that's crazy. That's lunacy, right? But by the same token, there are certain things that we can expect that is okay when it comes down to common adult behavior.
I like that part, the common adult behavior piece and the expectation piece. It was something that you just, it was a wow moment for me, and I kind of want to verbalize it so it kind of stick in my head. That wow moment was kind of like, um we expect for another adult to be able to have another conversation. Well, I wouldn't expect my 3-year-old granddaughter to have the same capacity to have the conversation, but I would expect an adult, and I think that that is a fair expectation to have with another adult, and I think that that is okay.
Now, I like all of this. I like all of this. I do want to read these other two comments, but we're gonna read them in row because we in 30 minutes in. It didn't even feel like it. Miss Charlotte Jordan, good evening. She said, I think our values may be the root to some of our boundaries. And I definitely agree. My values are the blueprint. His divine appointment, good evening, sis. She said, my values are the blueprint for my boundaries. Without knowing my values, I'm essentially building walls at random, hoping they protect what matters, but not really sure what that is. I think that puts values according to boundaries and right where it needs to be for me. I love that, because how do I set boundaries in my life if I don't even know what my values are? And that's a part of that identity piece that we bring up a lot in these conversations. So I appreciate those comments. Let's move on to the second part of this question. I mean, not the second part of this question, second part of the conversation. We can skip this one, Coach. My apology. What are some dangers of setting unspecified boundaries? Now, this is the part of the conversation that I said that last comment was kind of leading into, right? Because it's easy to say respect, but what boundaries am I setting to get the respect that I'm looking for? Kind of.
I have a question first. How do I set unspecified boundaries?
Vague. Lead them vague. Like, and that's why I brought that up. Like when we just say respect, what does respect look like to Dwayne Dwight? Because my level of respect and your level of respect may be different. So I may cross that boundary and you be like, hey, bro. And I'm looking at you like, you good? You be like, then I say respect. But I didn't look at that as disrespect. So I can just say respect, or I can just say, yes, sir. I see.
Yeah, because I'm with Coach with that unspecified thing, because I don't care where you are in life, and in the movie Life, they had a boundary. He said, tell him about the gun line, boss. And he told him the boundaries of where they could go. If you don't clearly tell somebody the boundaries, if they go over it, it's not necessarily their fault. It's yours, because you didn't articulate the boundary, because they're not their boundaries. They're your boundaries.
I think you answered the question right there.
What are the dangers of setting unspecified boundaries? Getting hit in the face when that unspecified boundary comes right back around. When she say, hey, babe, can I go out tonight? And you like, yeah. All right. And then she come in at 4:00 in the morning and now you upset. You ain't say, hey, maybe 1:00, maybe 2:00 is a decent hour. We didn't have a conversation about what time we was coming back in the house. So now it's 4:00, the doors open up, and now you got an attitude, like Coach said, like somebody said, like you can't get upset. But now this is the danger of it. It came back around. There wasn't specific set up. It was just, hey, babe, I'm going out with the girls tonight. And that was it. So just like anything else, when you leave out context, when you leave out certain information, that stuff come back around you. I try to be, I don't know how, this is very important. Micro adjustments, details, all of those things, context, those things are very, very, very important, especially when you are setting boundaries. If you're in relationships, like I I see a lot of these shows all the time, and people are not dating with intention and stuff. They're just like, I heard a lot of, one of the biggest ones I hear all the time is people say, I am looking for a God-fearing man or a God-fearing woman, and that is it. They don't go into more detail about what that actually looks like. They don't go into the specifics. And then they get with somebody because their definition of what a God-fearing man or woman looks like is different from yours because there was no specification in the boundary setting. So again, for me, the dangers of it is when they're not specified and they're not set and talked about, and there's context or details behind it, that thing come right back around and slap you right in the face with it.
Yeah, I asked the question because an unspecified boundary is not a boundary. It's makeshift. It's in your head. You're the only person that's aware of it. So how can I say that it's a boundary? It's something that I'm thinking, and in my mind, it's like, well, if this person does that, then it's literally a blueprint to the failure for the other person. So if it's not specified, it's not a boundary. It's just a if then statement for you. But the dangers of it all is that that person is ultimately set up to fail. That's what the end state is. Everything that they do, because they do not understand what your boundaries are, or you don't understand what their boundaries are, everything that they do can potentially cross an unspecified boundary. Therefore, now that means we got to have a conversation. And next thing you know, it's another conversation, then it's another conversation, then it's another conversation. So it's confusion, it's frustration, it's anger, it's all of those things that exist in the space of this thing that we call relationship. But in all actuality, it's not a relationship because it doesn't have any boundaries. Every relationship has boundaries, specified boundaries. You don't believe me? If you got a job, they specified their boundaries to you clearly and articulately so that you know these are what we expect you to do. Be to work on time. Do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Leave at this time. Take your lunch break at this time. That is specific. So you know exactly what to do. Violate those boundaries, there could be consequences and repercussions and potentially furniture moving if the manager speak to you in a particular type of way. So that's my point. If it's not specified, it's not a boundary.
And all of that, it alleviates misunderstandings and unnecessary conflict.
Absolutely. Being specific definitely keeps a lot of boundaries at a lot of conflict at bay. And there's some good stuff in the comments. Where was it? His divine. And I'm kind of slow on the keyboard today.
Start reading it. Start reading it and we'll pull it up.
Yeah, she said unspecified is possible for the other person. We don't express our boundaries until it happens. And that's true for a lot of people. Or we're not, as Unc said, we're not detailed with it. We're putting out an idea, but we're not actually articulating what we really want. So I agree with that. Did you have anything? And then Lisa Key's comment, she said, setting boundaries is essential in every relationship because it protects our well-being. We must understand and define our boundaries first as they foster respect, clarity, and healthy connections. And I think that's what Ro and Coach was just articulating as well. So thank y'all for y'all comments. If there's nothing else, let's go to the scenario number one. I want to see what you brothers think. So, scenario number one: Bobby and Ricky are roommates, and Ricky has begun to work from home. While Ricky is preparing his work, he is constantly distracted by loud noises. He noticed that Bobby was in the house dancing and singing, so he asked Bobby if he would keep the noise down. Since Ricky has dedicated from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. to his work, he is really annoyed that Bobby also likes to dance and sing around the house. So one day, Ricky had enough of asking Bobby to be quiet, so he yells out, "I said shut up." So my first question with this scenario is, how did Ricky handle this situation, and could he have set his boundaries better?
He didn't say nobody. I don't recall him having a conversation. I think you said Ricky and Bobby. Yeah, I don't think he had a conversation with Bobby saying, "Hey, this is the time I gotta have some quiet time because I'm doing blase split." He just said, "Shut up," or just went in the room and locked the door instead of having a conversation. So as Bobby floating around like Leroy on Fame on in the living room, I don't know why. You know me. Anyway, he's irritated by that, but he's not doing anything wrong. So until it's articulated, hey, it's the problem is all Ricky's.
That's the way I look at it. Is, hey, you didn't let Bobby know that from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. that's your dedicated study time. And here's the deal. Not that you just didn't let him know, you didn't have a conversation with him about it. Because maybe you guys, maybe that's his dance time. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Y'all ain't communicated and talked about nothing. So because Ricky failed to communicate effectively or communicate, period, he can't be upset. You can be, but you can't be upset at him. You should be upset at yourself for not articulating, not having a conversation. Closed mouth don't get fed.
I just want to make sure I'm reading the same scenario. Did he not ask? Did he not ask him to keep it down?
Nope.
That's what the scenario said.
Keep it
Then go
down,
back
though.
and look.
I'm asking. He did ask him to keep it down, right? Could that not have opened the door for a conversation to
It should have.
understand? Right. So I'm just saying, I'm not so convinced that the opportunity wasn't there. I got the whole clearly articulating boundaries and things of that nature, but I'm not so sure that Ricky didn't necessarily articulate to Bobby like, hey, check this out. And plus, I kind of also got to look at the fact that they're roommates. So do they not talk at all as roommates?
Mm-hmm.
Do Bobby not know that Ricky has dedicated 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. as his work time? Does he not know his roommate work? Let's. How does the rent gonna get paid? You see what I'm saying? You dancing, unless dancing is paying your bills, right?
Keep talking.
So I'm and again, I'm looking at this from a holistic perspective. I'm not saying that you guys are wrong, but I'm also saying that there was at least an semblance of a conversation that took place, or an expression which could have led into a conversation by asking, okay, got it, whatever the case may be. So could he have handled like the end state, the whole shut up thing? That might have been a little overboard. But at the end of the day, yeah, we did kind of talk, hey, keep it down. I don't mind you, two-stepping and, doing your river dance over there. But at the end of the day, can you do it in like soft shoes instead of them clickers you got on? Because you disturbing me and distracting me over here while I'm trying to work. I'm just saying.
I got you. And I get that. And that has made me take a different perspective, because that is a very important piece in there. There was at least an attempt. Now, the key is how was that conversation? That's really the key. Knocking on the door, banging on the window, banging on the door and saying, "Hey man, can you keep it down?" It's different than, hey man, I'm trying to get some work done between 9 and 12, blah 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 blah. can you keep the noise down? So even they still, the context behind that conversation about he asked Bobby if he would keep the noise down. When did you ask him? Did you ask him 3 weeks ago? You know what I mean? Did you ask him today? When was that conversation? How was, and what was the context behind that conversation? But yes, I can't just throw Ricky under the bus altogether now. I can't do that no more because there was some context, because Ricky at least there was some attempt behind there. So I can't throw Ricky out. I can't throw Ricky out under the bus altogether no more. So made an adjustment in my comment.
I'm throwing him under the bus and rolling over him. Ricky is getting ran over because as an adult, you know what you got going on. I don't have to know. Now, and I'm saying he did say, hey, pretty much he said shut up in a nice way earlier, but now it's like, hey, if I know it's gonna get to a head, if I know, dude, hey, he may have forgot. I gotta go on, weigh it on that side. And he may have had a conversation with him, but right then he need to speak up a little more than his little gingerly heart desired at the moment.
Man, I'm with all of y'all really, because he did act. So I'm with Coach as well, because when he says, "Hey, can you keep it down?" All right, the assumption is, "Hey, I'm gonna start asking questions because I want to dance and sing," So I'm gonna ask questions like, "Hey, how long you gonna be working?" Bobby. Bobby like to shout. He like to dance. He like to be in front of the mirror. So how about Bobby ask some questions? Hey, how long you gonna be working? So I'll go somewhere else. I'm gonna go meet some people and go do some stuff. Whatever the case may be. But I feel like the opportunity was open for Bobby to get clarity. But I also feel like in this scenario, well, because Bobby got a lot of this weight too. Because because you roommates, so the assumption is that I started this work from home, right? Because we don't just talk when the bills need to be paid. At least me, I'm not taking no random roommates. If one of y'all want a room, we could room, because I know y'all cool. We could I respect y'all and I trust y'all, and we have some type of relationship. I'm not just moving in with a random stranger. So like you said, do they not talk? Did he not know that he started this job? So hey, let's have a conversation. You starting to work from home. I just want to know what your timeline gonna look like. But I also believe that Ricky is responsible for laying that out and being detailed with that boundary. Like, hey, I work from home, but also, can you make sure during this time frame, you give me some time to work. His divine says, absolutely, he could have expressed the critical time and space. He should have engaged Bobby. And I think I agree, and I think both ways on that one, as we all pretty much discussed on that one. What's it? Lisa Key. I had to highlight this one because I laughed a little bit. She said, "Bobby and Ricky may need to call Mike for a mediation." Hey, maybe I'm the only one laughed at that one, but that's a real thing too. It's funny, it made me laugh, but it also made me think. That's a real thing too. Before we go at each other's throat, maybe somebody need to come in and help us, because had Mike came in and said what Coach said, Bobby would have been able to take some thought instead of just being mad that Ricky yelled at him. He probably would have took time to say, you know what, I could have asked questions. I'm not putting it all on Bobby because I see your face.
Because I'm thinking, remember Big Red told old boy what his office hours were? He told him a few times. Yeah, so then when I go Big Red, you already knew, but I told you. Now, if you keep pushing the button, see, this ain't that situation. This is a situation where I don't think they need mediation. I think they need better communication. Because if they have better communication, then they won't even need Mike to come in and mediate anything.
I think it was a joke.
I know. I'm waiting to get to the other one.
But yeah, can we bring up Crystal's before we move to the next question real quick? Crystal Everett, she said, "I don't understand because if I know someone in the house will work from home, why would I make all that noise?" Oh, only in other words, everybody up here, if you ever need a roommate, don't call Roland because he said, "I'm joking."
No, I'm saying if I, yeah, we would respond this way, but in a scenario, you get
Yeah.
I get
Because
that.
you also know your roommate, so you know Bobby, you know his tendencies too. You had something. Yeah. And someone else said, "Yeah, I agree with this. There is a such thing, especially if you have a relationship, if you're friends. I don't know how close Bobby and Ricky was before they moved in, but and somebody else said that I can't find it, but someone else in there mentioned something about this plays a part in that respect thing too. I work from home. You could be doing something different, or you can go somewhere else and dance. Let's go to the next question. And
What was the answer? Did y'all answer?
I say no, because common sense ain't common. You done heard that a lot. And everybody's definition of it ain't the same. So that's where you have expectations and hurt feelings because of your expectations.
y'all concur? I feel like got something. That's why he brought it.
I didn't know it was getting answered.
My bad.
I thought you was still on something else and we was getting back to it. But if we're done with it, then we're done with it. I wasn't going to answer it anyway. I just wanted to see what the master had to say about it because I saw it up there.
He said she said what she said. That's it.
Who? But I still missed it. It went totally over my head. I missed it altogether. Maybe I'll go back and watch it.
Common-ish. I'll leave it at that. Common-ish.
Yeah. I like I said, I think relationships plays a part in it. I know Ro, and I talked with Ro enough. I've been around Ro long enough. I don't know everything about him, but I know there's certain things that I won't do or won't say. In certain ways, I won't behave in his space because he didn't necessarily say this is my boundary, this is my boundary, this is my boundary, and everything. But there's some things that I know about him that I know he doesn't deal with, and he doesn't put up with. So if that's something that I like to do, I'm not going to try to include him or be invasive and try to put him in that predicament because I know him, and I think sometimes relationships there should be something like a common sense. And she used the word common sense boundary, but I would just say just common respect that if you know the person, y'all got a close relationship, you know when certain things bother them.
And I think that's where the relational value adds to it because then I may go to somebody else and say, well, it's just common sense. I'm taking what we do over here, thinking that that's what everybody should do. That's why I think Coach said, it's common-ish.
Yeah. Let's I think we kind of touched a little bit on the second question in this scenario. I don't want to jump, but I really want to get to the third question in this scenario so we can move forward. The next one was if someone is a repeat offender of your clearly established boundaries, what are some good examples of boundary reinforcement? I really wanted to get to this one.
Withdrawal. I mean, I hate to say it that way. It's that simple. If somebody is a repeat offender, like at some point you got to recognize you're talking too much. right? I don't have to sit there and continue to tell a full grown adult the same thing over and over and over and over. I reserve that for kids. Kids, I will give that kind of, continue conversation with, but I'm only going to do it for kids for but so long. So if I do it for kids only for but so long, trust me, adults don't get that. So at some point, you got to recognize either they respect you, going back to that word, right? Either they respect you or they don't. So when you articulate a boundary to them, I would say the first time it's awareness, right? You're human. I get it. We make bad decisions sometimes in the space of relationship. The second time, okay, I give it to you the second time. Third time, I ain't got too much to say. It's a wrap.
I'm gonna say conversation. And I understand where coach is coming from in a relationship. Sometimes the repeat offender is people's boss or supervisors, right? So this is why I say conversation. Sometimes someone will say something and they may not say anything. Eventually you're going to have a conversation. And I say that because I think a lot of people struggle with having a conversation with their boss or their employer or somebody in HR for whatever reason, fear of losing their job for one. But I think that when you live a certain way and you have established the boundaries and someone is clearly crossing them over and over and over again, you have to have the conversation. And I say, I don't know why, but I know people right now. I have people in my phone right now who have had conversation with and struggle. Their boundaries have clearly been walked over and crossed, but they refuse to have a conversation with somebody above them. So, to somebody out there, I don't know. One thing you need to do is you need to have a conversation. And know at the end of the day, some of y'all on these jobs, maybe that job is not where you're supposed to be. And that's where it comes back to the separation piece that coach was just talking about. You know what I'm saying? You've had the conversation, but some of y'all won't even have the conversation sometimes. So I think conversation is good. Separation is good too, depending on what the situation is. But one of the things I kind of wanted to talk about was real quick. There's this whole trend I've been seeing on social media about people like almost like divorcing or like blocking like their parents and stuff like this. And I get it. I understand setting boundaries and stuff like this. And for some people, maybe that is what you have to do. But the way I thought about it was this. My mom is in the chat right now. Regardless of what goes on, that's still my mother. You know, I personally would not block her. What I would do was keep the lines of communication open, but I would, if I needed to, separate myself, keep some distance. Hey, mom, I know everything going on, but the way we got going on in our lives right now, and it ain't working, it ain't jiving. So I'm just going to sit over here until we work this thing out. I'm going to sit over here. Everything cool. But right now, I can't have the extra whatever else that you are bringing to the table right now. I can't have it in my life. But yeah, I don't know. That's it.
I'm with both of them. I think that, and because my mother is one on Saturdays and on Sundays. My mama calling whenever she feel like calling, even though I'm telling her, "Ma, I'm online at this time." But it's an oversight for her. She's up there in age and everything, and I can't just cut mama off. So what I do is I say, "Okay, I got this little do not disturb thing, so notifications and everything won't come through, or certain people, it's like okay." Uh, but when people that you're in relationship with that aren't of age and aren't this, that, and other, that are clearly just saying, "Forget your boundaries. I'm not respecting that or you." Those people, I have zero problem saying, "Okay, you got to go." That's why in life you have to put people in certain positions. Everybody's not meant to be in your close circle, even though they may be have common friends. If somebody may, hey, you on outside with me because I understand that you have, when it comes to this core value, you have no regards to it. So I think that some people you may have to cut off, others you just put in position.
So let me make sure I'm understanding what everybody's saying. because I just like to make things make sense. So titles give others the time and space to violate or cross boundaries.
I say not. No. Like when he was saying about the job, I say get another job. But when it like my mother and her being, up there in age and absent minded about, what I'm doing at a moment, hey, she forgot every doggone time. Okay. That's one of those things where I'm gonna overlook.
Title more so relationship, more so than title. And mother is that title and that relationship, but that's that's a select few. Probably sons is probably in that category. If they had an issue with me, I wouldn't just block them. I would separate, but leave the line of communication open. But other than probably immediate blood, it ain't really. That's probably about it. So yes, I would say probably there's probably definitely some title that goes into that. Yep.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. My immediate reaction to that question is no. As I give it minor thought, there may be some boundaries that are set for people that are not in a certain relationship with you, right? I don't know that it's like coach will tell you real quick when George is playing, don't call him. He gonna be glued to that TV.
And it don't matter what your title is.
For coach, but for somebody else, if mama calls, I don't care if Georgia playing, I don't care who playing.
I'll call you back.
I'm no, I agree, but that's but that's I can't blanket that for everybody because
Unless
for
you're
me,
calling me to talk about the game. If you ain't calling me to talk about the Georgia game, we ain't finna talk. That's just it. Boundary set.
yeah. But for some people, mama get that right to call and interrupt the game. For some people, that's the only person they'll let interrupt their game.
But see, this is the point that I'm talking about right here, though.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When we say we have a boundary established, when I say, oh, if you have this title, and we can say mama, we can say daddy, we can say spouse, we can say children, churn. I'm saying like that, churn, right? Oh, y'all get the opportunity to violate boundaries. Well, I don't have boundaries for them then. That's the thing. That's why I say what I said in the beginning. Like when the boundary is established, then if I have to, if we got to have 2 and 3 conversations about the boundary, then you're telling me something without telling me something. I get it. I respect what you're telling me. I respect it so much that I give you the space that your behavior is asking me for.
I'm with him, man. The only time you can I'm the same way with Michigan, Detroit, whomever. But and the only time I would you got to be in an accident or something. You got to be on your way to some building that you need actual help, not you just want to. I was just thinking about you can think about me in 2 hours because I have zero problem with that because this is my time that I said that's how it's gonna roll now and that's why it's a different case when like I don't think that titles I don't think mother is a title. I mean, something that we use, but I don't think that titles should matter. Just like when we would get off work, if I was doing something with my family, hey, it's family time. I'll call you when we're done. And you got to understand that if you don't respect it, you don't respect me. So I'm gonna hang up the phone either way.
For all y'all gentlemen, is it work on the shoe work? Does it work on both sides of the fence? Like, does it work for you as well? I know it does for me. Like if my son be like, Dad, look, from 9 to 12, don't call because me and the kids, grandkid, we watching Bluey. I'm cool with it. You know what I mean? Are you guys cool with it on the other side of that too? Your kids and stuff setting boundaries, and then so we ain't got little kids no more, so I ain't gonna go there.
I do.
Oh yeah. See now, remember them days coaching and rolling. Remember when kids start wanting to set boundaries with us, and we might have a little push, man. They want a little privacy. You started the show talking about how some of us was raised and talking about taking the door off the hinges and stuff like that. So interesting. It kind of came back around.
Are we talking kids that live in my house?
I'm with you. I'm waiting on this.
Yeah.
You can't say.
I don't got none. I don't got none in my house.
I'm about to say, as long as I'm paying the mortgage, ain't no boundary in my house. There's a certain degree of
I
respect
didn't say
I
it.
give you, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when you violate certain things, I'm going to get the drill. And I have done that.
Yes.
You get the drill.
And she was a teenager.
Take it off the door. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with it. I was waiting for that too. I was waiting for it on. But yeah, I agree. So
you said 12.
So-
Chris Evans took her daughter's door down when she was 12.
but at the same time, my son turns 14 next month, right? He's going into high school. So I know at some point he's going to start feeling more like an adult. And I want him to start behaving a little more like an adult. It doesn't mean that he has the boundaries to tell me what I can and can't do in my house, but I'm going to give him a little more. I don't want to say respect, because I respect him now as a person, but the way I show him respect and the way I give him more freedom to move, a little more freedom to move, so that he can start behaving more adult-like, right? And so
He
that
moves off of your boundaries.
Come up in my room without you knocking first.
Oh no, his bed gonna be in the living room. I wish he would.
Why he can't have boundaries?
Don't
He's
tell me.
14.
You tell me I can't knock on your door. Okay.
See, Gaddy, that sound good right now.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you say, Roland?
I was saying, Gaddy, that sound good right now, but children move off of parents' boundaries. They don't set boundaries in your house.
Right.
You set boundaries for them, and they adhere to that. If they can't do that, then they become the parent pretty much. So
Pretty
and I get what you're saying. You want him to have freedoms, but you will still set those freedoms for him.
Oh, right. Absolutely. Man, we moving. So I'm gonna read this real quick. Lisa Keys, we pull up her highlighted comment real quick. She says, warn a divisive person once, and then warn them a second time. After that, have nothing to do with them, because you know that such a person is warped and sinning, being am I saying this right? And sinning, being self-condemned. That I like this one, because I agree, but I think the important part for everyone that's reading this is to understand you have to be able to determine, is this a divisive person, or is this an oversight? Because I've ran into some people, and some of them people, they've said some things that just allow me to say, okay, I agree, cut swing low. But I ran into some people that behave a certain way, but that they were brought up to behave a certain way, but that behavior just doesn't sit well with me. That crosses, it just didn't flow with me. So when I addressed it, it was hard for them to really understand what I was saying, because that's how they behave. That's their norm. And so when I realized that, hey, that's just who they are, they're not going to change, I had to make a choice. Either I was going to keep them around and deal with it, or I was just going to cut it off. I don't know what say you brothers.
That's exactly what I said earlier.
Yeah. And then you got something wrong, so you reach.
No, I was just agreeing.
Good unc. And then
I'm looking at my mom's comments. That's all.
Oh, and then Sister Nodella, she said, The Bible says, train up a child, not an adult. And that's the reason why I read it in that order, because that's exactly, I think, what we deal with sometimes. People have been already trained up to behave a certain way. And so I guess my question then to this would be, do you consider that a divisive person, or do you handle them the same way as you would handle someone who's just purposely divisive?
I have a child that consistently went against what I set forth.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay. And, I don't, it's like now I cut ties. I remove myself from you and you from me, because until you can come fall under this, we have nothing to talk about, because you're going to continue to disrespect me and expect for me to like it. And if I start liking it, I've set a new standard. So I've set a new boundary, and you controlling this. So, you know.
Yeah, I see. Unc said Unc didn't lose his door, but his bed got moved. I said, I told you, you moved that bed.
Yeah, I didn't get the whole doors come off the thing. I heard about it and stuff. But
Yeah, my doors came off. Yeah, we got enough time. Let's get to this second scenario. We ain't gonna get that third one in. I know we ain't, but let's get to the second scenario real quick. So Michael and his wife uh, Janet have agreed that once they make it home, they will respect I'm sorry, I'm tripping over my own tongue today. Michael and his wife Janet have agreed that once they make it home, they will respect each other by not bringing work home. That also means phone calls about work. This is an established boundary with both of their coworkers. But Ronnie, Michael's coworker, continues to call and ask work related questions, causing Janet to complain because Michael, instead of addressing the violation of his boundary, he answers the questions and complains to his wife after they hang up the phone. Question on this scenario. First question is, how can Michael enforce his boundaries better with Ronnie?
Not answer the phone. It's my choice to answer. Even if I answer, dog, I don't do that at this time. Ever. This is set. So don't after work, I don't talk about work. Whatever. If that's how it gotta be, that's how it gotta be. If they already set that in motion, because once I go against that, I ain't sleeping with Ronnie. He's sleeping. I mean, well, Mike ain't sleeping. He's sleeping with his sister. I mean, he's sleeping with Janet. You don't
yeah,
want
I'm
to put them
looking at
names up.
yeah. I'm looking at the other two members and I'm like, bro, come on, man. I would like to know how old this guy is, because here's my thing. Gaddy, look, don't call me after 7 o'clock and talking about no work, because me and Shell is having our time. First of all, he ain't gonna be. He can call once. I ain't gonna answer the phone when I get to work the next day. Gaddy, I already told you, brother. Don't call me after 7 o'clock. Now, I may not be like that, but I am going to be very direct so that he knows that I I'm setting a boundary and I'm serious about this. I'm not joking around talking about, yeah, man, don't be calling, my old lady gonna be tripping. No, dudes do that sometime and they play around instead of just being direct with it, and then people don't take them serious about it, and then next thing you know, he calling again. Gaddy, don't call my house after 7 o'clock. All right, if it's happening the third time, we're going on block, and then we're gonna have another conversation at work. But this time, it's going to be a third party, whether that be furniture moving, whether that be HR, whether that be the boss or somebody like that. But at this point, someone else needs to get involved because Gaddy clearly doesn't understand these boundaries that were set with him. So, like which guy said, I got to go home to Shell. I got to go home to whoever Michael got to go home to his wife, not to Ronnie. So Michael need to enforce them boundaries better with Ronnie, and all he do is say, "Look, bro, don't call my house no more. Be direct with him and tell him don't do it again." That's how simple it is. It is that simple.
First of all, Michael need to tell Ronnie to go and call Ricky and Bobby and deal with their situation with dancing in the house. I'm just gonna put it out there. All right.
Yeah, we
But
need
no,
heard Johnny.
exactly. But if I'm being completely honest, we asking the wrong question. I'm just gonna say that. This is the wrong question to ask. How can Michael enforce his boundaries with Ronnie? Michael ain't gonna enforce his boundaries better with Ronnie. He's already shown that. The question is, how can Janet enforce her boundaries with Ronnie? I mean, with Michael, because they've already had the conversation. That's the conversation. That's the question that we need to be asking. Because at the end of the day, if Michael is having a conversation with Ronnie and then getting off the phone and complaining to Janet, if Janet participates in that conversation, she is now what they call complicit. So what she needs to do is say, look, don't talk to me about Ronnie because we had already had a conversation. Let's have the conversation about the boundary that we previously established where we said we would not bring work home. Let's have that conversation. Can we do that? Because I don't care about Ronnie. I don't care about what Ronnie got going on. I really don't care about what you got going on at work after you come in this house. That's what we discussed. So let's have this conversation instead of, talking about Michael and Ronnie and whatever the case may be. I think Michael and Ronnie might be going together.
And yeah, cause that's true too. Cause I was like, bro, why are you even answering the phone? Why are you even making this a situation? Like, why are you even allowing this dude to get through after 7 o'clock or whatever that time may be? It's like, bro, like you messing up your own home for a coworker, bro. Nah.
I had a supervisor told me if it can't be done by 5 o'clock, it'll be there in the morning.
Absolutely, I did too. Can we bring up Charlotte Jordan's comment, por favor? Because she asked a good question. She says, "Why does Michael feel he has to answer the phone? Maybe he thinks it would affect his job if he doesn't."
Then why did he make an agreement with his wife to set that boundary if he knew that this was going to affect his job? When you was having that conversation with your wife, you saying, "Hey, look," and y'all establishing these boundaries, saying, "Hey, look, well, blah 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 blah." That's when this situation should have been brought up if there was an issue. But I get it. I'm with you, like, bro.
Yeah.
Why you answering the phone?
And not saying that I disagree, but I understand where this question comes from because let's just take my job for instance. When I come in, I got 30 minutes before I unlock the door, and then all chaos break loose, right? But I have a calendar that I adhere to that kind of keeps me on schedule. Other than my random show ups and my returns, people finishing their process, whatever. But I have a calendar I adhere to. So for me, what I do to enforce my boundary for myself is I write everything out on that calendar. And I've made it clear to the people who update that calendar. If you make changes after I leave this office, I need you to print it out and put it on my desk. Because what if it doesn't update on my calendar when I come in? Then I got surprises, or I'm telling people they're not on the calendar and they are. You've done these deals, but. So not saying that I would answer the phone, but I understand the concept of like now if they call me, maybe something is going on that I need to know when I show up in the morning. And so sometimes when I don't answer the phone, I get to thinking like, I hope, because I had a situation where, there was a VIP showing up and I had to have things prepared for that VIP. But I didn't answer the phone because I felt like you could have left me a note and put it on my desk. Like, because I have 30 minutes to prepare. So I get where that question is coming from.
So the answer to that question authentically is that men were raised to believe that all they do is provide and protect. So at the end of the day, a lot of that provision and protection come rooted in them being good at their job. Now, I do agree with his divine appointment that this is where we value our job over our home life. And the evidence is obvious because he keeps answering the phone. that is evidence that he is valuing his job more than he is valuing the boundary that he set with his wife. That's a conjunctive boundary that they both said for the sake of their relationship. So when you answer that phone, what are you really saying about that relationship? Well, like I said, most men are given the mantra of provide and protect. And as long as I'm good at my job, that opens the door for promotion, that opens for the door for all of those things. So I love the question because I think that is a great question to ask. But at the end of the day, the answer is still the same. You're valuing your job over your relationship.
Yeah, we did a lot of that for 20 years. Well, kind of had to.
It's bread. It's what they teach you to do in the army.
Yep.
Right.
They teach you to do.
Right. Which is why a lot of DoD jobs hire vets, because they know we have this mindset that we a soldier 24/7. And if they hire you as soon as you get out, they're hoping that you forget you retired, that you the soldier. No. I promise you. I promise you. I feel. Never mind. I'm gonna leave that alone. I ain't gonna say that lie. Nah. But I think we actually answered the next question, and we can bring it up still. It says, what are some possible consequences Michael can face for not enforcing his boundaries? I think we kind of touched on that a little bit when Coach asked the question. How's he going to address this with Janet? How are you going to address this with Janet? We concur. We try to squeeze in this third one. All right. So, question: Can experience and maturity trigger a need to reevaluate your boundaries?
I think that's just growth. So yeah, definitely.
My answer is yes, but come back to me because I want to add a little bit more to it, but I'm thinking through my answer right now. So
This isn't a flat answer. Can experience immaturity trigger a need to reevaluate your boundaries? I don't think it's experience and maturity for the person. It's experience and maturity in the relationship. When the relationship matures, then that triggers the need to reevaluate your boundaries. I think experience and maturity makes you establish boundaries. But once you're in the relationship and the relationship grows and expand, now because of the expansion of the relationship, because of the progressive nature of that relationship, now that is the thing that makes you reevaluate your boundaries because now we're looking to expand together.
I know Unc's still thinking on his. When I first came in the military and I was a young married soldier, I still thought, well, I did then, hey, we could drink all night, party all night, every night, still go to work and have kids and try to manage things. But over the experience of life happening, I said, man, this is not something that I can maintain. This ain't something. So I got to reevaluate things. I got to look at things differently so I can set some family boundaries and some uh, boundaries at work and everything else so that I can move forward in the fashion that facilitates where I am now.
like Coach said, not a flat yes. I think if I'm just looking at can experience, yes, and maybe I'm taking away experience versus an experience, and if I am, then let me know. And I think I am, but I'm gonna go ahead and talk out my talking point anyway because I already thought it out. So, if we all decide, we all get together and say, hey, you know what? Next year, 2026, we're going to have a men's retreat. And all four of us are going to be there. And we're going to invite other men and we're going to go someplace. And for 2 days, we're just men, and we're going to learn and we're going to grow and learn from each other and all of these wonderful things. That is an experience, but maybe that is not experience. So I'm thinking that that experience that I'm having with you gentlemen and all of the information that I'm observing with you guys, I think that that could trigger something to say, hey, what, you know what? Maybe I need to reevaluate some of these boundaries that I have in my life in certain areas and stuff like this. So that's kind of why I say yes. But also, again, I'm also saying this with the thought process that I could be talking about and single experience versus just experience in general. So
I like that. I like that. Let's bring Johnny and Ralph into this conversation real quick, and then we're gonna run off. Uh, don't laugh at me. Y'all saw what I was doing. All right, here we go. So Johnny and Ralph has been friends for 2 decades, and they have both established necessary boundaries in their relationship. But Johnny has recently been married, and his desire to hang out and stay up late has changed. So when Ralph asked him to attend a party that he was promoting, and having his friend attend his event is very important to him. So when Johnny says no, Ralph becomes confused and thinks that Johnny has changed up on him, and now Johnny's acting funny, and now their friendship is in jeopardy. So my question for this one is: was Ralph correct in his confusion about Johnny's decision not to hang out?
I'm waiting on the. I got to read the question again. I'm waiting for it to pop back in the chat.
Yeah, because I'm looking like, who the heck is who? Either way, I think that it takes a level of maturity. Now, he can make whatever decision that he wants, but I think he's kind of keeping worlds separate, his friend and his wife. So it could lead to some type of animosity for whoever the married person is and his wife and the other person, when he could have had a conversation with his wife, because he may be, I think that's one of those things. He may be overanalyzing it, or he may be saying, well, we don't move like that no more, and he wants your support. So I think conversations should be had to where understanding takes place, and to see that it's not that it's me choosing this over that, but this is my new lifestyle, and there's a certain way that I want to move within it.
I think he was correct in his confusion, and here's why. And the only reason being is because after 2 decades, this is a new space in their relationship. This is something that has never happened. So everything from here going forward is new. He's never been shut down, probably, and had a woman or that guy's wife, move to that top position. So now he's in a different position in Johnny's life. So was he correct in his confusion? Yes. He was confused about it just because it's something new. Now, do I believe he had a right to be uncomfortable or anything like this? I think he had a right, and only because it's new. I think that after a certain amount of time, he's going to understand his place. And hey, you know what, man, me and Gaddy been friends for 20 years, and then he just got married, and now we can't hang out. We always been hanging out. We've been hanging out since college. I can't hang out with Gaddy no more. I have to learn my new role in my new space in Gaddy's life is not number one anymore. Now, the lady that he married is the wife is now the number one person. I have to take a new spot. So I believe that just confusion, he was correct in his confusion. You know what I'm saying? If we're just looking at it like that. But man, that dude going on and doing what he's supposed to do and putting his wife up there and stuff like this. But this is also one of those situations when effective communication is very important. Because if y'all been friends for 20 years, this should have been a conversation. Hey, look, man, this is something really important to me, and y'all really had a conversation about it. But at the end of the day, if you got to say, hey, look, I'm going and doing this with my wife, and I ain't got no feelings and I ain't got no qualms with it, because that's his life and he got to do what he got to do, and it ain't going to affect our relationship.
We're talking about adults, right? Okay. I mean,
That part.
if we're talking about adults, the answer to the question, was Ralph correct in his confusion? Correct. No. Is he entitled to feel how he feel? Absolutely. Keep it to yourself. Grow up. Like, if you're quote unquote my friend and you know I just got married, then the friendship now has to incorporate my wife, which means now, from your perspective, if you are a quote unquote friend, the boundary that you have incorporates my wife. You are an advocate for the both of us as a friend. I'm not going to sit here and explain to you why I'm not going to your little raggedy party. If I'm getting, come on, man, what are we talking about? These are adults. I'm not going to sit here and have that conversation with them. This goes back to Shell's question, right? About common sense. This is a common sense question. I ain't got time to sit here and over explain something to a grown man. Your feelings hurt because I'm changing up on you. I'm sorry. Go home, drink a cold one, sleep on it. Hopefully you feel better in the morning. But I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen.
Johnny can call Eddie over, and they can have
Eddie Levert? Yeah, absolutely.
Eddie Murphy.
No, Eddie Levert. Because that's something. I'm sorry, man. No, the answer is no.
Hey, I knew I was starting something by using these names, man. Oh man. Real quick, can we bring up his divine had a statement, had a comment, and I wanted to address her real quick. She says, Ralph needs to get over himself. New or old, doesn't matter. Respect his boundary. So can I kind of, because there's something in there I didn't, even though I wrote it, I didn't catch, right? Ralph has a boundary too, right? It's subtle, like you don't catch it because it doesn't seem like a boundary, but to me it seems like it's a boundary. His boundary is I expect my friends to support my events.
Do you expect that adult to have the opportunity to answer the question that you ask him? I'm just asking a fair question here. If I ask you, Gaddy, do you like my red cup? Do you have the opportunity to say yes or no?
I should.
Okay, you should.
Mhm.
That's the boundary right there. Whatever your answer is, I respect your answer. That's the point that I'm getting at. When we start setting the conditions for people to believe that I should expect you to say yes, that's called manipulation.
Right.
No, I'm not that guy.
And that's not a boundary. That's an expectation. Like, and you can expect all day. Don't mean I gotta succumb to the whims of how you believe.
I was seeing if okay. I agree, but I just wanted to throw that in because these are real scenarios, right? Not these. I made them up, but it's things that people actually deal with in friendships. Like there are I hear, and all of us been married more than once. I know we've heard our significant others at one point or the other say, but I expect them to act like if you're my friend, you should be doing blah blah blah. One of the common one I used to hear all the time. If you my friend and you enemies with my enemies, like hold on, wait a minute, all right. But these concepts of I have this expectation and that becomes my boundary. I think it needed to be addressed. So I do agree that is manipulation when you tell me I have to hate somebody because you hate them, or I don't have the ability to create new boundaries because something changed in my life. I grew, I matured, I got married, and I don't want to be out all hours of the night getting drunk, hanging out with women all over me or whatever the case may be, or not. But I'd rather be here up under this woman or her up under me. So I agree. Yeah. So man, I really enjoyed this conversation. I feel like we could have kept going, but we kind of pushed a little bit past our time. So I do appreciate everyone in the chats and the on the panel. Y'all helped me down today. Y'all perspectives and y'all opinions have made a big impact on this conversation. So I appreciate that. So with that said, it is time for our bittersweet moment. It's time for our final thoughts.
We talked about boundaries, setting boundaries, and we added in some values on tonight. Great conversation, and I think that there are signs that you might need to set some boundaries. If you feel drained around certain people and certain interactions, you need to set some boundaries. If you feel resentment towards people or going certain places, there may be a need for some boundaries to be set. If you avoiding people like the plague, if you see somebody coming, you like, oh, Lord, you need to set some boundaries. You're not setting the boundaries simply to avoid people in places. You're setting the boundaries for your peace of mind, and so that your relationships can have a sense of stability and flourish instead of you looking at them as something in the negative. You can spend the time that you desire, when you desire, how you desire, and all of that is built upon your values. If you have values and your circle has values, your circle can flourish. Your circle can see where people may go wrong or right within the circle instead of you just taking things from an emotional standpoint and getting in your feelings because it's written in black and white or spoken in the words to where a person has an understanding. So now you know if you cross this, you knew that that was the gun line. And we seen what happened when someone crossed the gun line. That's all I got.
We we all have boundaries. Some boundaries are more stricter than others. Some boundaries are different than others. We all have to live in this world together. You know, there's four men up here on this show, and all of us having certain values and certain boundaries in life has allowed us to be able to come over here and have conversations. Our boundaries and our values and different things like that had to align for us to be able to have conversations. In order for us to have a conversation, we can't be up here yelling and screaming and talking over top of each other. We won't be able to have an effective conversation. So my final thought for this evening is pretty simple. You know, respect other people's boundaries and then respect your own boundaries. When you have created boundaries in your life, hold yourself to those boundaries and don't allow other people to try to come in and manipulate or try to change or adjust the boundaries that you have set for your life. You've created those boundaries to help you, and you know why you set them. So make sure that you also enforce those boundaries and keep those boundaries in yourself and respect the boundaries that you have placed upon yourself as well as the boundaries you have placed upon others as well. I think that's right.
I placed a poll in the on the YouTube chat board. Just because, I wanted to understand how people viewed values and things that, not values, viewed boundaries and things of that nature. For me, boundaries are pretty simple. I don't think they're as difficult as we make them out to be. I think the difficulties that we have is that we don't necessarily have a foundation in which we root our boundaries in. So a lot of times we make them up according to how we feel. But then that goes back to what we said previously. What if how I feel is rooted in something other than the truth? And so to avoid just creating boundaries off of a whim or based upon how I feel to protect how I feel or whatever the case may be, we should be basing our boundaries off of something more concrete. Our boundaries should be rooted in the truth. And if our boundaries are rooted in the truth, then it should be a commonality that we all have when it comes down to those particular boundaries, because those boundaries reflect shared values. And those of us who share common values that kind of define the relationships that we are in. So now when we set these boundaries, both of us have a clear understanding of those boundaries, kind of like Michael and Janet. Um, and then if we have a clear understanding of those boundaries, now we have the opportunity to have great conversations when those boundaries are violated and things of that nature. That's when we got to put our big boy britches on, our big girl britches on, right? Because having those mature adult conversations about violating the boundaries doesn't mean that we're bad people. It just means that we made a bad decision. Own the fact that you made a bad decision and then make a better decision moving forward, because at the end of the day, that's the purpose of the boundary. The boundary is designed to protect and safeguard the relationship. If we don't have them articulated, then at the end of the day, the relationship is fragile. And that's my final thought.
I love this conversation. I appreciate everyone in this conversation. I would say, after listening to my brothers speak tonight, one of the things become obvious to me. Like, there are a type of people out there that do not believe in other people's boundaries, and we have those people in our lives sometimes. And a lot of times it's because people believe they have the freedom to move however they want, even in your space, even as it concerns you, because they are the valued person or the valued party in the relationship, which means that to them, that decreases the value of who you are to them. And if we don't mutually see ourselves and hold each other with some level of value, then we're not really in a relationship. And we can just go ahead and cut sling low and move forward. And people like that, I try to stay away from. And I think we need to identify these things early. When you see signs, dig into those signs, see if it's real or if it's something. Set that boundary in place, articulate it, and see how they respond to it, and then make your honest decision and opinion of what you should do going forward. Don't hold on to it. Don't get too deep. Don't wait 5-10 years down the road. Then your feelings are hurt when that relationship is severed. That's all I have for tonight. I appreciate you, brothers. Listen, I enjoyed this conversation. I know you enjoyed this conversation. I've been lit up in the chat tonight. I appreciate how on fire you are. This is the first Saturday, so we don't have anything, correct? So listen, don't if you feel like this conversation is cut short and you want more, you want to be more engaged into these conversations, just catch us on Sunday for our Sunday brunch, 11:30 Eastern Standard, 10:30 Central Time. You catch us on TikTok. This Sunday, I believe we are on the Mindset Coach. So, and then just for the sake of any confusion, I'm swapping with Ro next week. Correct? So I just wanted to put that out there for the future. So listen, keep up with us. Get on there. Share this conversation with people. Even now, right? Share the replay so that others can catch us. Because I believe that there was some good stuff put out there. Boundaries is a thing that destroys a lot of relationships. We don't set them, we don't articulate them, we don't enforce them, and therefore they're not respected. And so we feel devalued, we feel hurt, and we sever relationships that we could have worked through had we set boundaries. Right. So let's get this out there. This is one of the ways we can help save families in our community, help strengthen families in our community. So let's do our part. I appreciate you all. I thank you all. And y'all have a great rest of y'all Friday night.